Okay, so I've got a lot of digital inking completed here, but there's more to do. So I've saved my work. I'm going to do some of these internal lines first, using the same settings on my blob brush. And having inked by hand for a lot of my early illustration career doing editorial cartoons and working with both sable brushes and graphic paints and then using brush pens and then using things like uniballs, this really is similar to inking by hand. There are things I like about inking by hand that are impossible to imitate digitally. But of the digital tools available, this blob brush is definitely my favorite. So I hope it can be useful to you. The worst thing about inking is when you feel it doesn't do credit to your sketch or to your idea. And so that's why we have all this kind of clarity on both sides of the line by using the blob brush, where we can really get it where we want it. Though it does take time and often rotating the canvas and repetition. But all of that is building our skills. Now I know there are many of you in the class that really have no interest in making original illustrations as part of your professional career. But understanding how to correct and improve is always going to be important whenever you're working with marketing materials or with other people. And so the more you can understand what the process is and what it entails, the more valuable you are as someone that gives input, sometimes gives oversight, right? Some of the most frustrating professional experiences I've had, especially as an illustrator, is when you have an art director or a project director or a campaign director that just doesn't understand how difficult it is to make certain changes or how long it should take or, you know, what's valuable about the process. So by having to do it yourself, it helps you to value it in others. All right. I'll hit Command S whenever I finish a section. Keep plowing forward. These tough curves. That smooth tool does a lot of the work for me, kind of cleaning it up, which I am grateful for. And for those of you who have trouble drawing a straight line, that smooth function of the blob brush or the pencil tool really helps with that. Also helps not to drink so much coffee. I discovered that in graduate school. Okay, so now to patch up, I can just try to use the blob brush and kind of taper that, but the best tool I have for that is the pencil tool, just to work with it directly. Once I see the anchor points, I can start on the path and end on the path. And then I can try to average out those anchor points with the smooth tool. And to be this particular about an illustration, like zooming in, getting all these transitions right, professionally is not absolutely necessary, right? Because this will be seen at a certain size, and those tiny little overlaps and things won't actually change it. But a benefit of doing personal work is you're invested in it and you care about it. So you might as well learn the skills by making it as strong as you possibly can. And as you get more confident with these techniques, your line quality will improve, what's called line confidence in art. And you see that that's a beautiful curve right there. And then I fix this with, you guessed it, the pencil tool. Taper one curve into the other, starting on the path and ending on the path. And if they're not together, like here, I can use the pathfinder and shift to make them together. Like they're one puddle of ink that I can control. All right. Let's see, let's find a good angle for all of these strokes. And we'll finish it off. Like a big earthworm. Now, if you've done similar kind of digital inking in Procreate or in Photoshop, you'll often have the problem, especially if you're using smoothing on the brush, that the computer kind of lags on you and the brush will slow down all of a sudden. And you'll notice that doesn't happen nearly as much in Illustrator, and that's because Illustrator is so much more memory and processing efficient. So that's a really good sales point for using the Blob brush. All right. Good. Now I'm just going to redraw that crown. Not that it's particularly bad. In fact, it's not bad, but I'm just going to clean it up maybe with the pencil tool. Because I was a lot more hesitant, I was just picking my sizes for my brush. So you see I didn't do it kind of in one smooth, confident line. Instead, I got these little bloops at the edges, but then just use the pencil tool. You can clean those right up as long as you can see the anchor points. It's like magic scissors. You can redraw it with the pencil tool. And if anyone likes anyone else's line art in the class and wants to tattoo it on their body, it's an opportunity for you to learn usage rights and contracts. And I can help advise. Now, before you finish it off, because I took the time to kind of clean up my sketch, but before you're all finished, because your line art's going to be set once you save it as a transferable vector format, make sure that you like the orientation of everything, that everything's kind of stretched and rotated the way you want. And take advantage of these individual vector shapes to make those little tweaks, right? Whether it's to the angle of the crown, or there's this slightly odd placement here. So I might go in with my Blob brush, thicken it a little bit on this side, right? And then taper it down on the other. In fact, I might even just use my eraser. Take this out. And then, remember what's a vector, we can always control. Move this down, squeeze it a little bit, rotate it. And carry that through. The pressure sensitivity really, really helps on the tablets. That's why I don't recommend using the Blob brush with a mouse, even though most of Illustrator is designed for a mouse or a trackpad. The Blob brush is not optimized for that. Does that look weird? A little bit. So I'm going to thicken the inside of it. But I like that little bulge, I think, in the design. Let's see. Okay, good. Now I'm going to bring all these together. Right, selecting them both. Why is it not selecting them both? Oh, because I need to be on a selection tool. And then Pathfinder them together, merge them together, and now I can use Pencil tool to redraw. Almost. Where am I? There I am. I'm going to let it get a lot thicker here. So the final refinements, final tweaks in our last few minutes. There we go. Remember, you have control of the inside and the outside of these lines. So use that to your advantage. Almost there. Okay. All right, now hit Command S. I'm happy with the line art design. So what do? I turn off my sketch. I don't delete it, but I turn it off. I use a selection tool, click off of it. I kind of zoom in and fix any edges. I'll keep seeing them if they stand out to me. But yeah, this looks pretty good. So now how do I save it as a vector? Well, I always save it as an AI. So Command S, that will save it as the AI. It's in my folder right there. Now I need to save it as transferable vector formats. So what you can do is click on your big selection tool, make sure that your sketch image is locked so you can select the entire vector. Make sure, though there shouldn't be any reason this doesn't happen, make sure that it's only black shapes by hovering it over the gray. Make sure that it looks like this. It's only fills, no strokes, right? But I'll show you something that's kind of cool. What you can do is you can Pathfinder it all together. So it's one kind of simplified path. It's in a group here. And then I can duplicate it, copy it, paste it, fill it with black, right? And then I can actually add a stroke to it if I want.